and I am here today at this beautiful place around the world. We're live from Canada and Israel at the very same time on this podcast of Your Life Matters Soul Connection podcast, and I am over the moon today to be having this conversation with my great niece. She is great. She's my niece, my niece's daughter. Her name is Chana Margulies. Chana, welcome.
Thank you so much, Auntie Junie, for having me. Wow.
Wow. Well, this is such a joy, such a delight, such an extraordinary moment in my life, because having known you since you were born and have seen with my own eyes how you have moved through your life, and with such passion and verve, always like going through many different transformations in your young life, always to find the highest, the best, the most extraordinary gems that you can from sometimes some of the most heinous situations, and you know them, and you're going to speak about some of them today, so that because I'm going to want to know, and others are going to want to know, how you got from where you began to where you are now, and some of those challenges that have been some of the greatest lessons of your life, and what you do today to help others to that place as well, to know that truth, that our challenges can be the elixir of our freedom in many ways. So I'm going to say a little bit about you. So I'll try to keep out the, not say some of the family secrets. So Chana was raised on an organic farm in Canada, and she now lives in the most beautiful mystical city of Tzfat in Israel with her husband, Rabbi Ariel Margulies. So Chana gives motivational talks and workshops for a very wide range of audiences around the world. And she coaches women in the work, which is Byron Katie's work. And she also does marriage counseling, which is extraordinary. So Chana's, and she's also just published recently her very first book, Jumping in Puddles. Yes, wow. Congratulations. Wow. So that is probably the smallest, and I really appreciate it too, bio that, because we could just go on from now until years from now, just talking about the things that shaped your life in incredible ways. So Chana, before we get into your book and your living in your beloved Israel and Tzfat and what you do there today, bring us back. I mean, I remember, I'll tell you something that I remember, which is really cool. I remember talking to you. I think you were about 15 or 16 years old. You were in Toronto. I was here in British Columbia. And I was excited because I was just about to do a workshop on an island, off Vancouver, called Bowen. And I was doing this writing workshop, and the person whose home it was in, she happened to be someone who was following Thich Nhat Hanh. And I said, oh yeah, the person is, she goes to Plum Village in France because she's one of the people that teaches Thich Nhat Hanh's work. And you go, Thich Nhat Hanh, get out of town. And I go, what? My 15-year-old niece knows who he is? Well,
he's in the book. He's in the book.
In the book. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. And I said, how do you know? Well, because I go to meditations. I do his meditations every week. I said, you're 15, don't you go to the mall? And so you, for as long as I can remember, have always had this you've been drawn to things that are spiritual, that have deeper meaning. And so how did this begin with you? Tell us about that.
I love that you remember that. And I remember that phone call also, because then we were talking about mindfulness and you told me that even when the phone is ringing, you could use that as like a mindfulness bell. And I thought it was so cool. I had someone in my life who knew what on earth I was talking about. Like, I just thought that was so great.
Wow. That's great. I forgot that part.
It really was a journey to get even to the technology part. So really, it was a search for something more. It was a search of not being satisfied. It wasn't a search of, well, this is great and that's great. It was a search of, no, I'm not satisfied and I want something more, with a real thirst. And it was very painful at times. We all crave to be connected to our source, right? The way my phone goes crazy and will send me notifications if it's gonna, like, needs to be charged. I feel like we all have that we want to be plugged into our source. We want to feel connected. And I definitely felt that very strongly. After just being in a drug scene, in a teenage scene, very young, I just was done. I was done with that. And I had at first I was completely infatuated with it and it was very exciting. And then quickly realizing that it wasn't exactly a sustainable lifestyle. Then realizing, okay, so if, parties and drugs and booze and boys, that's not where it's at, then what is it? And I think, that darkness I did experience in the beginning of my teenage years, it really fed that thirst. So there must be something real, and wanting to know what it was.
Wow. That in itself is quite extraordinary, because I don't know how many teenagers who are just seduced by the whole idea of drugs and sex and rock and roll and whatever that is, because that was our hippie phrase 1,000 years ago. And it's like, wow, this is just so fascinating. And just the peer pressure alone. But there was something within your own being, your shemesh, your soul, that needed to know that, to even say, well, that's not going to be very sustainable. That in itself is such a mature thing to say and to realize and to say, okay, I'm done with that. And it put you on another path of seeking. Carry on. Yes.
There was some really funny crossover points where I was still in the party phase, but I was also getting into Shabbat. So it would be like, I'd go to the Shabbat dinner and then go to the party afterwards. And all I would want to talk to people about, even though I drove there, I'd be like, wow, Shabbat's so powerful, guys. And there's a unifying force. And like, I'd be like sharing all these mystical ideas, like at the rave. Like, there were some really funny crossover moments. Or like at the rave, who wants to meditate? Like Thich Nhat Hanh, like anyone? Like,
people were going,
find them for a bit.
That's just funny. Oh, I love it. Wow. So of course we know that you had your own rave, and that was about Shabbat and what that, and so tell us more about what that is for you, the power of Shabbat, because not everybody will know that who's listening today.
Yeah. So the power of Shabbat for me was really just in experiencing it. I started going to this one Friday night dinner meal. It was something fun to do, interesting people, interesting conversations. And the way they explained to me about these 25 hours, right? Friday from sundown until 3 stars Saturday night, the 25 hours of Shabbat. And just telling me about the benefits of it in my life. I was like, okay, social experiment. What's the harm? I was into trying anything. So, okay, let's try Shabbat now. And just being able to really be like, oh my God, my brain is addicted to technology. And I didn't know, but like feeling the ants of like, why do I have to scroll? Right? Like, why does my brain want that? I'm like, oh, wow. Like, and even just the attention I started getting from people, those one-on-one conversations where there was nothing to do. We were just really present with each other because we weren't using technology. We weren't traveling. And then just that feeling of full presence. And my family, meaning sometimes I'd go out to like the more Jewish community and have these fun Shabbos gatherings with people. And sometimes I'd be at home and we weren't living in the Jewish community at that point. And even just, as a teenager, I wasn't so interested in connecting with my parents. And all of a sudden, we just had this time together because they wanted to keep, if I was at home on Saturday, they were going to be home with me too. And just the presence. And my father started making Kiddush, which is a prayer over wine. And just watching him so bravely, I think at the age, I guess, he was 50 then, starting to like, mumble through the Hebrew, trying to bring back his Hebrew from his bar mitzvah days to say this prayer. And like, oh, they want to do it with me. And my mom is making challah. Suddenly we're having like our own Shabbos party, and just that feeling of like, oh, my parents are actually people I can learn from and reconnect with. And I kind of felt like, like once the party started, that was over, maybe when I'm a mom, I'll need them again, but it was like, oh, we can have that. And that was a huge part of it for me was, as a teenager, I didn't really want to admit it, but like having that like genuine connection with my family again, of just eating chocolate chip cookies and stay up late, playing Monopoly or whatever it was, some kind of Shabbos board game. And for me, so it was less intellectual at first, but really what the concepts and the Kabbalah and the mysticism and, really the divine delight that we're experiencing. It was just more about that actual experience of connection that was just so real.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm so happy that you brought it to what your experience of it was. And I think that that's something that everybody, no matter who you are and what religion and where in the world, is connection. We need that more than ever. I think we've always needed that. And because devices have taken over the world, we're always on our devices. The majority of the world are on their phones and on their computers. And over these last couple of years where we're on Zoom all the time. And on one hand, it's just so gratifying, and I'm so grateful that we have this technology, so I can be where I am in the world and you can be where you are in the world, and we can connect like this. But to have those hours, of 25 hours, is that what you said? I was thinking about with 24, so 25 hours, 3 stars. I'm curious to know what that is.
That's the full end of the day, is those 3 stars.
Okay. So to know that for just, Friday night sundown, Saturday night sundown is that time to be able to spend with people that you love, or to just be quiet or be by yourself and read a book or be with your family, but to be in either in solitary devotion or with people and be with others in a community where you can, if it's with your parents or siblings or friends or whatever, to share that experience with. I think we all want that kind of connection, whether it's playing Monopoly or we're looking at the deeper stories and what they tell us from the Bible. And so that's beautiful. So that was what piqued your interest to begin with, and you just became more involved. And then
it was also like my parents really challenged me at first, because the laws of Shabbat, it says don't rest. Okay, that's what it says in the written Torah. In the oral Torah, no rest is 39 different categories of work, of creative acts. So it means, not writing. For a writer, it can be very challenging, right? Not making videos. It's very extensive. And my parents really challenged me, like, why can't you turn on a light? Like, what God cares if you turn on a light? And I was like, oh, it's a good question. So, after Shabbat, I'd call my rebbitzin and be like, why can't I turn on a light? And I just remember one of the answers I got, it was so profound for me, was the idea that, like, let's say you want to send someone an email and you forget a letter. Like, okay, so who cares? You sent the email, but we all know, annoyingly, it's not going to go through, right? It has to be exact. And so really in this physical world, everything's exact. And so too in the spiritual world, things are exact, right? There's exact laws of Shabbat that really create the formation of it. And the idea of also that, I know how my husband likes his eggs, that the romance is in the details, is knowing what someone loves. And God says, this is how you love me. Shabbat is my love language. Spend 25 hours with me. These are my favorite things to do. And these are the things that really I don't like, right? And it's like building that connection is also like, people say writing is like, or art is like about creativity, but it's also about the things you don't put in, right? It's all the words you put in your book and the words you don't put in your book. What you put in your canvas and you hold back. And just really being able to realize how all these details that before just seemed like minutia to me, and really being challenged, like, wow, God cares if I turn on a light. Cool. Like, interesting. Wow, God cares about the details in my little world. And so it was also the way my parents challenged me to really, really question what I was doing. It actually led me deeper into really falling in love with Shabbat, not just from an experiential place, but from a knowledge base of like, oh, wow, I'm actually creating a connection here in these details of Shabbat that are very profound to me.
And so it sounds like there's a curiosity, like there's this like thirst for you of wanting to know why, right?
Yeah.
It's not just okay, you know, all right, fine, that's the rule, I'll do it. No, why? Well,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then recognizing, okay, so this is God's way of saying, this is what I like, this is what I'm, and even that, it's like building a muscle for something that maybe it's not something that you really relish at first, but the more you do it, you start to speak, you know, it's like a flower that's just opening. And there's just more and more and more beauty that you get to see, and as it opens its petals, and the aroma just goes out into, you know, to show, whoa, look at this, look at the glory of all of this. And so there's always more that we can learn if we're willing. And so I love that about you. So that led you to what? You, at some point you decided, I'm going to study this even more, and and then you started to think about wanting to study in Israel, and thinking, oh, okay, I want to finish high school, and then I'm going to and see what it's like there. So how did that come about?
So, you know, since I was 12 and my parents took me to Israel for the first time, I knew I was Israel bound. Like, I understood this is, and so for me, Israel was like a very natural next step. And there was all these amazing programs. I could just come and learn Torah and just really delve into my Judaism in a whole other way. And yeah, it was just a total rush of excitement to go be 18, living in Jerusalem. I was just counting down the months.
And I remember, of course, just before that, you were here in Victoria, and we spent 3 glorious weeks together. And right, and I remember, hey, Junie, did you know, by the way, I'm bringing 30 pounds of cheese?
So the Chabad house that we brought 30 pounds of cheese for, their daughter, who was 12 at the time, she's now in the school I teach in.
No.
Yeah, Messiah Kaplan is there.
Oh my gosh, how I love these connections. I just love how that happens. Wow, 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 wow. So there you were, here you were, and we had this wonderful, wonderful holiday together, and you're all excited, and you're going back to Toronto to live out the rest of the summer with your family and maybe travel here and there. And then September, you're going off to Israel to have your first year at school in the seminary there. And tell us what happened next.
Yeah, so a month into school, that's when I was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer. Thank God she lives. Spoiler alert. Okay, it's a happy story. And yeah, so that's really a huge part, Baruch Hashem, of my book. That's when I started writing my book, was when I was sick. And writing was a huge part of treatment. I came back to Toronto right after Simchas Torah, right after the Jewish high holidays, to start treatment. And it was very clear to me. I wrote from the day one. You know, most of my book are old diary entries that I wrote during the time that I just refurbished and did 500 edits on, you know, but it was all, I was writing it then because for me, it was an adventure. It's like, what is happening? Like, I know it sounds weird and maybe it's shock, but there was a very huge excitement in me in being diagnosed. It was like, oh my God, this is going to be such a story. And there was moments where it was like, okay, this is not just a story anymore. Like, reality just hit hard. But the writing constantly throughout it. And I love looking at the times I wrote, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., you know, it's just like writing was always there for me when it wouldn't have been something I would have wanted to say to anyone, you know? And it was, you know, in many ways a prayer, writing, being able to write it all out. God can handle it. The piece of paper can handle it. And for me, it was very clear. I'm going to beat this cancer. I'm going to have a book. And they really went together in my mind.
It's so interesting. I had no idea. And that was part of the process for you. And I'm not surprised. Pardon me?
I don't think anyone else knew that.
No, but you know what? I understand it as a writer and using my diary and journal over the years as a private place to go. And like you said, the journal, God can handle it, the journal can handle it, you know, the paper can handle it, right? And it's just such a sacred act the writing, somehow, I don't know for you if it's maybe the same, but even as a child, when I discovered my diary all those years ago, it was almost as though I didn't feel alone writing, even no matter what I was going through. It was like this benevolent energy was there with me as I wrote. And I wouldn't have been able to describe that like that then. But I felt safe writing. There was something, I just knew I wasn't alone. Did you have that feeling?
Yeah, I mean, you put it beautifully into words, that exact experience of yes. And it's for me, it's also knowing that my words can carry, like someone else could read it. It could be shared, like it has a life of its own. And, I grew up with Rewrite Your Life in my house. And I'm not saying as a little kid, 8 years old, I picked it up and decided to be a prodigy, but just even seeing that title of Rewrite Your Life, it stuck with me. There was a concept that writing is transformation. And I understood when you write, there's supposed to be a happy ending, like, right? You're going to rewrite it. And so for me, like, if I know, sometimes I don't want to write because I know when I write, I'm going to transform it. It's like, nope, I want to stay in it. But there's a moment where it's like, okay, I'm going to put on a piece of paper. Like this part, and we say, this is the worst day ever, and I can't believe this nurse just did this, and chemo's horrible, and I hate everything, and this really great thing happened, and this might be the best moment of my life, and shoot, I transformed it. It's like,
I know, I hate when that happens, right? I just want to sit here and I want to complain longer, right? I want to stew longer.
Why did writing have to be cathartic? Now I'm better. Shoot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Don't pick up a pen and paper if you want to feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, is we get to tell the truth, and the truth will set you free. And right. And so to me, that time that you were undergoing your treatments, I mean, first of all, the shock of having to leave Israel, your beloved Israel, right? And the shock to your mom and to your dad and to your family, to all of us, and but nobody more than you, of course. But to suddenly find you have stage 4 cancer as 18, 17 years old, you were, and to have that and come back and go through all the treatment, but to have the spirit of you to be able at the core, no matter how ill you were, you would have calls happening every week. Every week, you set up a system where people from all over the world would get on the phone, and you would have this, or on Zoom, and you would do this, or whatever it was, Skype, and you would have these prayer circles so that everybody would pray with you for your health. And you would also said, God would not have given this to me if there wasn't a meaning in it.
Yes.
There had to be a meaning. And so what is the meaning that you are going to bring to your life? You made us all accountable. And so you would have these kids would be saying, well, I started an anti-bullying regime at school, and I'm volunteering at a hospital, and everybody was coming in and sharing because you were so passionate about, I was only given this, there's got to be meaning in this. And we have to make this a mitzvah. We've got to find a meaning that there is going to be a gift in this. And what is the gift that this is for you, and that you are finding that you can give to others in the world? And bless you. I don't know anybody at your age with that kind of wisdom and verve and tenacity to trust, to go beyond the nausea. I mean, sometimes I don't even think you could lift your head, but you were there.
Yeah, that was bad. It's really like, I love that you remember that, because that's such a huge part of what I remember too, is the meaning of people doing mitzvahs for me. I couldn't deny it. Meaning, it's not that I needed to know why it's happening. No, there wouldn't be a why that would justify it. It's just that this has to have meaning, like something good has to come out of this. Like, that's it. And I remember this one Hebrew school, they sent me a video of all the boys in the class putting on tzitzis, which is like a special mitzvah for the boys to wear. And they were saying their blessings, maybe 8 years old. And then they said, feel better, Chana. And like these little videos of the girls in the Hebrew school lighting, like they're going to light their Shabbos candles. And it's just like, come on, that's so good. Like, meaning I'm not going to say it's justifying this cancer. And that's the reason why. Who knows why? That's God's business. But just being able to say that something so good came out of this, it like gave me a feeling like I'm a piece of a puzzle and a puzzle piece. Like there's something bigger that's happening here and I'm part of it. I didn't get forgotten and lost. And no, I'm part of it. That's what it really gave me. That sense of like, I guess that my life can have, my life matters. That's your thing, right? Your life matters. Yes, that my life matters.
Yeah, and you wrote the story. And so not only were you a part of it, you initiated it and you made everybody a part of it. And that in itself, oh my gosh, they can take that learning and bring it into every part of their life. Because in the end, I think that is what matters, is that we can take these crises in our life. You cannot walk upon this earth, this beautiful earth that we're living on, and not have pain and not have dark nights of the soul. We're all going to feel lost. We're all going to experience something that can take us out of our game. We don't know when that'll be. And so to be able to have that kind of conscious awareness at the time, to be able to say, there's meaning in this. And I'm going to just, and why? I don't know. Like, I love what you said. I don't know why. Who knows why? That's God's business. It's not my business, right? It happens. Why is like, this just takes us into this revolving, why did it happen to me? I don't know, because because you have green hair. I mean, whatever, this month it's people with green hair. It's we don't know why, but what we can do is how we respond. So what happened next for you?
What happened next for me? So a huge part of the journey that I explored in my book is the recovery. Because I think, and also like what you're saying, as you're saying, it really just reminded me of like, for me, being able to share my journey and put it into words and a talk and just even talk about it and ask people to do mitzvahs for me. When I discovered the world of people dealing with their own inner mental health issues, it broke my heart for that reason of people don't have that platform of saying, do a mitzvah for me, pray for me, or that applaud of like, I walked in the room bald and I got applauds, but realizing the person with depression, they don't get applauds, they get, where were you? And just, I think for me, like the inner mental health battle of recovery was, and I really tried my best I could in my book, not just end the book and then I was cancer-free, because that was not the ending of the book. That was in many ways the very beginning of it that I feel like gets skimmed over a lot. And whatever different literature I read of people in their recoveries, it just ends with that. And it's like, no, that's when it starts, because my hair starts to grow back and I look a little bit more normal and people think I'm back to life. And it's like, hello, welcome to PTSD, like trauma central, like, okay, I'm 18, so I'm going to live, but am I? Like being told you're going to die at 18, being told that I might die at 18, it didn't make going back to life easy. It made life very intense, very heavy. And I remember I came to—
Why? Tell us why.
Why it became so heavy?
Yep. What was that about? Okay, cancer-free and yes,
your freeness. It was, okay, I'm free, but then I just had, a night full of nightmares, that I'm back in the emergency room. Or I'm free, but I have cancer checkups and what's going to happen. It wasn't the carefreeness of youth, of la-di-da, just living my life. And a part of me wanted to get back to carefreeness. And I think the biggest compliment someone can give me is that I'm carefree, because I worked for that, meaning it was so stolen. And like being in Tzfat, there's these dance parties every Saturday night at the end of Shabbat. And I never used to go. When I first I came here as one of the first places I came to start my recovery afterwards was Tzfat. Just go somewhere to the mountains and heal. And I was like, why are people wasting time? Like, well, life on earth is so short. Then I was so serious and I was so weighed down by the experience that the idea of dancing was just, no. And I remember like the week I started dancing, like the week I was like, all right, whatever. And my curls were still so short that they were still stuck to my head from the chemo. Like my hair was just growing back. And as I shook my head, I realized that the curls were actually curls and they spun out. And it was like becoming me. It was like, oh my gosh, I have hair. Like they like spun out. I was so tightly bound. My curls were so tightly bound. And it was just really this experience of coming to life again and saying, we no one ever knows what tomorrow's gonna be, but we don't need to live. I don't need to live with that intensity. Like, I'm given today, and today is beautiful. And one of the big things for me was in that part of like after treatment was reading this part in Tanya. We finished the book called the main Hasidic text called Tanya. We finish it once a year. So this week we're finishing it. That's what I teach on thejewishwoman.org. It's a Facebook page. So I teach Tanya there. We're starting the new cycle next Tuesday, God willing. And one of the main lessons there was just about joy, that if someone's sad, they could be strong, but they're not going to win the fight. And someone could even be weak, but they're joyful, and that's going to allow them to win the fight in life. And realizing that what am I fighting for? Like, why am I recovering? What am I going through this process of helping my body heal and like helping my mind heal? Like, I want to be happy. And the only way to win is with happiness. Like, realizing that happiness isn't just what I'm fighting for to get back to being happy again. That's going to be my greatest tool. And so for me, it was just really a journey of having to choose happiness. And in a way, being sick, it was much easier to be happy because I had the attention, I had the support. Everyone was telling me I was doing great. I would write an email middle of the night with my inspiring Devar Torah, send it out. And suddenly it really became my own inner journey of healing, which I didn't expect. And one day, just to highlight what it was to me, someone saw me who hadn't seen me in so long, but they knew I had been sick. And they said, "Are you going to be okay?" I said, yeah, thank God I finished treatment. But it's still really hard. Like, the recovery is brutal. And she said, "But you're going to be okay, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, but there is so much more going on than that." And so in the way, that's what I cherish most, is like taking back what cancer stole in many ways, and getting to own it, getting to own my own carefreeness, even my naivety. If someone calls me naive, it's like, thank you. Like, because I am so exposed to so many things I wish I hadn't been. And so getting to like re-choose that naivety, or just, I guess the word is just simplicity, of getting just to trust life and trust that life can be good and things can work out. And for me, also getting married was a huge part of that. Like, oh, things can work out. Oh, my life can have a happy story. What's the but?
I love this. I love the way in which your mind thinks and in which you move through the processes that, and I think, it is, the details that make so, which we all need. It's one thing when somebody says, "Oh, but you're going to be okay, right?" And that's all they want to know. And a lot of the time, I remember my mom used to say, "Tell me something good." "But I just had a horrible day, Mom." "No, but tell me something good." And it was really hard. And I knew that it felt sometimes that the only way that I would be seen was if I was happy and up and right. And then I'll be okay. And I think, and then I'll have that connection. But I always had to come in with this, looking good, feeling good, being rah, even when I felt like crap. And that's something I still battle with sometimes, even still, because we're so taught to, "How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine." Meanwhile, your best friend just died, or your cat did, or somebody just who knows what, but I'm fine. So that's what we've been taught. We haven't been taught what you're telling us now, which is why I said, why was it difficult? Yeah, it was difficult getting through it, but now is the beginning, really, because now I'm on my own. Now I have to face these nightmares on my own. Now I have to know, what does it mean to survive? What does it mean to be happy? I'm not that carefree little kid. Now it's about finding ways to bring that back with what was stolen, and knowing that all of that is a journey. And I love that, because you're teaching that. You're not bypassing. You're not just skipping, from, yep, I was sick, I had cancer, now I'm better, all is perfect. You're allowing, like you say, right, what people go through, and we're all different. But like you said, somebody with a mental health challenge or whatever, and everybody today has got anxiety. I mean, we're living in a time when like the world is, gone nuts. I mean, we're living in a time with so much uncertainty. And so we need to be able to just breathe in a deep breath when there's a when Chana Margulies that says to us, it's okay, let me hear what you have to say. I want to know. I want to know your journey.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So tell us more. So here you are. You got married somehow in all of this. You come back to your beloved Israel. You're cancer free. That and now we thank God you have been for how many years? It's been 5 years is good. It can be, and it's beautiful. You find the man of your dreams, and you're married to this man now. You're both living in Israel, and you write a book. But it's like, oh yeah, okay, great. Thanks for coming today. See ya. No, it's not like that. Tell us. I guess, okay, so let me ask you this. You started writing your book when you got ill. You didn't know necessarily how it was going to all transform and how whatever, but you knew you were writing, and it has meaning, and one day these words will be shared. And then you decided at some point, yes, this book, it's time now. So was there something about Torah, and were there aspects about the Torah that inspired you to bring the book out now and in the way in which it's come out?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think the Torah is just always bringing out my essence. So I knew I had to write this book. It's one of those things I just knew, okay, I told myself I'm going to share this journey. I want to. And so every week there'd be a different Torah idea that would touch my essence, and therefore it'd be like, okay, write your book, Chana. But specifically, there's this idea, even in this week's Parsha, that Jacob, I love, love, love this idea. So Jacob and Esau are about to be reunited. These are brothers who have a complicated family history. They're about to have this great family reunion after years of not seeing each other. And the night before they're reunited, the Esau's angel, okay, so Esau represents all of Jacob's challenges in life. Esau really derailed Jacob's life in many ways. If you look through the Torah, Jacob's going to have a simple life. And all of a sudden, he had to take on the spiritual destiny of Esau, which means he has to wrestle with darkness. He has to go into the trauma and the challenge. And the night before they're going to be reunited, Esau, or Esau's angel, comes and wrestles Jacob. Okay, so this is that famous sculpture of the angel wrestling Jacob. And Jacob didn't ask to be wrestled by this angel. He didn't ask for Esau to traumatize his life ever. He didn't ask for any of this. And what happens? Jacob won't let the angel go. The angel's like, come on, I have to go. And he's like, no, not until you bless me. And I just love that. You can look at Torah, and there's Kabbalah, and there's Hasidic, and there's all the different dimensions, but just even the plain text there is so beautiful to me. I won't let you go until you bless me. He's looking at the spiritual energy of the person who caused him the most trauma and hardship and derailed his life the very most. And what's he saying? I won't let you go until you bless me. And for me, it's just no trauma. I'm not letting you go until you bless me. Until I get to benefit from this, until I understand so profoundly that this was for me. This wasn't here to crush me. No, this was my destiny. This is exactly what I needed to bring out my essence. And for me, the whole idea of getting to write a book, meaning here's cancer came my way. I didn't ask for it. All right, I'm gonna write a book. You know what I mean? For me, it's bless me, right? Turn into an experience where now I get to have, even this teenager. I was sitting with this teenager, went to the bakery, but it's Israel, so you don't just go to the bakery, you schmooze, Started schmoozing with this teenager, and we're having this whole deep conversation. I told her I wrote a book, and she wanted to know all about it. I was telling her about my story. We had this whole experience about even just talking about writing and how writing is so therapeutic. And it's cancer bless me. You know what I mean? Yes, this is me saying to cancer, I'm not letting you go. I'm not just moving on until you bless me. And for me, this book is that bless me. You know what I mean? Let me have all these beautiful moments of connection I wouldn't have otherwise, and get to inspire other people to write their story that I wouldn't have gone to otherwise. So for me, that's one very powerful idea. It's just being able to look at the darkness of my life and say, okay, God, bless me from it. Let me see how it's a blessing, And it's actually amazing because the angel then blesses Jacob, and Jacob has two names, Yaakov in Hebrew, but then we get to the higher name, which is Israel, right? We're named after the land of Israel, is named after him. And Israel is the name of transcendence. So while I'm still saying that my darkness, my Esau in my life, it shouldn't be here, I don't want it, it never should have happened, it was a big mistake, I'm still just wrestling with it. But when I can say, bless me, that's when I actually can reach a level of transcendence where I'm not actually that trauma, where I can actually just write the book and close it and give it a kiss and say, it's not me. And for me, that's the funnest part, is getting to reach that point of like the transcendence of, okay, it's a story and it's my story, but I can close it. I can just go and have a day where that doesn't have to affect it, if that makes sense. So for me, that's one powerful idea.
Wow. Wow. I love how you brought that story, the biblical story right now, into everyday life, like how it translates into the life of, okay, I may not want this trauma in my life. I don't want it. And yet at the same time, I need it. I need it to be here until I know what the blessing is out of it. I need to know. And that's what you did right from the first time, you know, and you probably did it before you had cancer, but you did it in other times because it's your nature, it seems, to want to know, you know, that curiosity, that innocence, that naivete, that beginner's mind. It's that why. It's why I want to know. I'm not going to be satisfied until I know. So and so I love it. The wrestling. I didn't want you. I didn't invite you here. You came. Yeah, but I got to go now. No, you don't. No, not until you bless me. Not until you tell me why I needed to know this. What is it that I need to know? Show me the way so that I can help others. I can help me, and therefore I can help others who also are going through some kind of crisis. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again here now, because for me, that turning point in my own life was all those years ago as a teenager when I was diagnosed with bipolar illness. And my life looked like a horror show in and out of mental institutions. And my prognosis was really grim. They just said the older you get, the worse it's going to be. And there wasn't, you know, and you're just going to, good luck, whatever. And it was not fun. And I'm not going to, you know, color or what you know, just put whipped cream all over it and just say, oh, what a beautiful life it was. And no, it wasn't. It was hard. It was really hard. It was really challenging. There was something inside of me that that wasn't going to be my fate. I didn't want that. I needed to know, like you needed to know, what is there in this that I can find a way through it, so that I can find the tools, so I can use the tools when sickness overcomes me. Because it's not something, there's something, you know, going on in the brain that's got its own chemical thing happening. And if that happens, it has a mind of its own. And I'm somebody who is passionate about life. I love life. I adore life. Hey, thank you, Jazzy, my bird singing. Right? And if that happens, boy, it's got this other thing. And I have to have the tools and know what to use before it happens. I need to know beforehand. Talk about PTSD, right? We need tools when we know that certain things trigger us. What can we do before the trigger happens? Or if it does happen, okay. And that's what builds strength and resiliency. And then, you know, little by little, you've built this whole big, beautiful tower of being able to just stand up on each rung and say, yay, I'm here. I'm here. And there's always going to be another rung to climb. But you know what? It's knowing that everything is possible and things happen for a reason. And so I love that because I get it. I know how to move from what could just have been, why would we want this? And why did it happen to me? And stay in that victim mode because of circumstances that beyond our control sometimes, that there's ways out. And you have become this extraordinary teacher of all of this at your young age. So
I really appreciate everything you just shared so personally, so powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. And so I want to understand, I want to ask a question about your book, another question about your book and all of that, but I also want to know in your life today, like I love that, you know, you just don't go to a bakery, you schmooze. You talk to people. How are you? What's going on in your life? Well, I wrote a book. What did you do? Oh, I just kind of, was playing with the ducks. And I was just so in the moment there. And oh, really? Where were you? Oh, I don't know that park. Oh, it's just over here. Great. Let's go. There's so much to life. It's one of the things I love about your mom. I just adore your mom. It's one of my favorite people on the planet. Is your mom is so in the moment so often. It's Rachel, where are you?
Village. She talks to everyone and
she's so that. Where are you? Oh, why? What time is it?
Also, one of my favorite things I was just thinking this week that my mother taught me is when someone works for me, to treat them well. Like, I have someone who helps me clean, and we're such good friends. And God bless her, because if she didn't, I wouldn't be able to work the way I do. And it's just like, as she was leaving, I gave her a bowl of dinner. And she said to me, like, I'm going to cry. Like, thank you for making me feel like home. I was like, why is that a big deal to give you dinner? You just help me for an hour. You know what I mean? And I sat down, I was like thinking, like, is that a big deal? And I was thinking, no, it's not in my world, because my mom taught me that when someone helps you, they're helping you. It doesn't matter if you're paying them. Like, that's irrelevant. They decide to show up and give you their energy and decide that they want to put their all into it. And who knows what kind of day she had, and she came. And I was just like, so just, you're bringing up my mom. I just really had a moment that day thinking like, we don't even realize sometimes how much goodness our mothers give us that become normal for us. And it's just such a blessing that, like, so yes.
That is so beautiful. That's so beautiful. It really is. To remember those things. Not in itself, just that thing in itself, to treat people well. And to, okay, I love it. Okay, so I pay this person. I already paid them. What else do I need to do? No, that person showed up. That person helped me. And so I love that you are honoring your mom with that. And I'm sure if you think about it, there's probably a million things that your mom has taught you that, and you're like, when we take them on and they become who we are, it's so beautiful. And there isn't a greater gift that you could give your mom than by doing that. And we learn so much. There's so many teachers in our life that come to us and teach us, and what you're doing now as well. You are paying that forward. And so I want to ask you something about your book. I love the title and I love the cover. So how did that come about? Where did you get that title? Jumping in Puddles.
So I'll just show them. Okay, so you see the little girl splashing. So funny, a 4-year-old was looking at it the other day upside down, and she said, "That's a funky umbrella." So great that a 4-year-old knew that word. 4-year-old Israeli. Okay, so my title came with the idea of jumping in puddles. Puddles are a theme throughout the book. They were just like splashed around to keep like the theme of the puddle. But puddles are the idea of there's things in our life that show up that we don't want them to be there. I just want to walk on a nice dry sidewalk. Like, why do I need this puddle there? And there's this Hasidic idea that I really love, which is it's in Hebrew, lachadchila a riber. In the first place, go over. And the idea is like this: when you're approached by a challenge, go over it. And the idea is, okay, so why is this challenge in my life? So I can go under it, so I can go sideways, so I can pretend it's not there, so I can wish it away. No, it's here to elevate me. So if I know it's here to elevate me, well, then let's get to the chase. Why do I have to spend so much time huffing and puffing? Let's be elevated. And the source of this idea is that by the splitting of the sea, we were trapped. Remember, right? It's the first post-traumatic trauma of the Jewish people, right? We're trapped by the sea. What's happening? The Egyptians are coming. We don't know what to do. And so there was 4 different opinions. Someone said mass suicide, right? Someone said, let's go back to Egypt. Other people said, let's fight the Egyptians. And other people said, let's just pray to God. And God said to the Jewish people, stop praying. This isn't a time to pray. Just go straight ahead. So what do? We went straight ahead. We walked right into the sea. And what happened is that the very thing that was the obstacle became the miracle. And that's the power of this Hasidic aphorism of just go over. Just the thing that looks like it's going to kill you, that actually is the thing that's going to become the miracle. And so for me, jumping in puddles is just a sweet way of saying, okay, when there's a puddle, so jump in it, like have fun, get messy, like have a great time. Like, it's not there for me to tiptoe around and be annoyed that my shoes got a little bit wet. Like, go into it, learn everything I can from that experience, and be able to look back and say I had fun. Like, either way, I'm going to get wet from this puddle, so I might as well get in a really great splash. My father actually came up with the title.
Who did?
My father.
Uh-huh.
Which I love that he gets to be a part of it in that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That reminds me, I mean, I love jumping in puddles. And
Yeah.
I remember being outside your Seeker's books on Bloor, right? And in Toronto, and your mom and I had just gone for a walk, or we were somewhere having a bagel, and we were just getting back, and we heard boom, crash, and it was thunder. It was thunder and lightning. It was the summer, and it was a thunderstorm. And all of a sudden, another boom, crash, and this torrential rain started falling right in front of Seekers. And I am jumping up and down and so excited to be in a rainstorm, because it rains all the time here, but there's no thunderstorms. We don't get lightning and thunder. I always love that. And so, I mean, puddles, oh gosh. So I just love that and I love the metaphor that you've just given us. And just play in the puddles, because there's a miracle in there too.
Oh yeah, and the local Tzfat artist, my friend Devora, she designed the cover. She only took 500 back and forths, and she snuck in little Hebrew letters in the splashes, which are I don't know if it's going to show up here, but that was a very fun creative touch. But before we knew we were going to do like a digital cover, I thought I was going to take a picture. So there was these kids who came to our family farm this summer in Canada, and it was just after a good rain, and there's lots of puddles. So I got them to try on rain boots, and I have a whole like 500 photos on my camera roll of these kids jumping in the puddle, so excited that their puddle splash is going to be on the cover of a book. You have to delete them. They're too cute.
Look at the absolute unabashed joy that your book has been bringing people right from even before it even got published, right? Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. It is so perfect. It's so perfect. So do you plan on other books down the road? How can you
Yes.
That's kind of like yeah.
What?
Tell us. I was supposed to say that's a like rhetorical question, but yes, tell us about it.
Yes, Baruch Hashem, thank God. I have 2 manuscripts sitting hot on my computer right now. They want to go other places beyond my computer. They're like, like you feel like the manuscript like itching. It's like, come on, I want to be a book. So yes, one is called Thank You for Being You. And I'm not going to go into so much about it now, but it's about my husband's journey. And which is, I'm just finishing it up right now. It's just a love affair writing it. And another book is called Nurturing Light. That one's done. It's about our infertility journey due to the cancer. And it's about motherhood and womanhood and all good things. And I'm excited to have it in my hands also. It's just the love of bless me, like saying to bless me. All right, give me, like, if I get a book out of it, I'm happy. You know what I mean? I just think that's so fun. So I said to my sister, any trauma in life, I want a book. Like, she was laughing, I meant it. And also, like, for this book, you're asking me earlier, but for what was like the push, because it was also a manuscript for 5 years, and I had an editor and back and forth, and we were getting places. But at one point in our fertility treatments last year, when I realized I was not gonna have a baby before that Rosh Hashanah, which in my mind was like my goal, that was my prayer. I said, okay, God, I'm gonna give you something else for Rosh Hashanah. I'm gonna give you a book. And my friend had showed up for Pesach pregnant, and she was our guest. She was staying with us for a week. And if I knew she was pregnant after a failed fertility treatment, okay, I would not have invited her, because I'm not cruel to myself. I like to be kind to myself, but I didn't realize she was pregnant, and I guess she was just starting to show. And I said to myself, at her bris, I'm gonna have my book. Like, it became like, I think there might be holier motivations to write a book, but it became like an inner competition of like, okay, having that baby's not in my control, but making this book, which, what do babies do? They bring light into the world, they make people laugh, they make people cry, they make people feel, they bring something into the world that no one else brought. So this book is gonna be my baby, like, and have a bris. Wow. I started marketing after the bris. After 8 days, I'm like, all right, let's start. And something, my friend had her baby boy, thank God, sweet, healthy little boy. She sent me the bris invitation, and I sent her the link to my book. And she sent me a mazel tov.
Wow, that is you jumping in your biggest puddle. Truly, truly, right? Seriously, that is you being you and taking that situation and just jumping in the puddle and making beautiful meaning of it and going
Thank
beyond
you.
your own personal sadness about that. Didn't happen for you at that time yet, but hey, my friend is having a baby and I'm going to have my baby, my book there for her wrist. And hello, here's the link. I love it. Oh, you rock,
And
girl.
also just the pregnant, before it would have been like the pregnanter she got, it would have been more and more painful. And now it was like motivation. It was like, oh my God, she's 6 months. I have to write this thing. It was like,
She did it on purpose. That's so cool. That's beautiful. That is beautiful.
thank you.
So what would you say are some of the major highlights of your life right now on a day of in a day of Chana Margulies?
Ooh,
Take
my
us through a
highlight.
day, like, yes,
Yes.
I mean, it just sounds like you have the recipe down for how to
Mhm.
create meaning and goodness
Thank you.
and moving beyond the pain. And what are some of those things that today in your life of your living your life in Tzfat, and it's your homeland now, you're back. I mean, you had no idea when you were a teenager or when you were a young girl, you knew that was going to be, you would be back there. It was already in your blood. So what, oh, and I also want to ask you another question. I'll just write it down right now, so in case I forget. I want to talk to you about the work of Katie. Well, you might as well tell me about that now, because I was asking you, what about your, because you do the work, Byron Katie's the work. So what is it about that that inspires you to teach it?
So clearly, my aunts in my life are very influential people. So this is from my aunt Vivian. Look at all the great aunts I have. She's not really my aunt, but I call her aunt. Okay, so Aunt Vivian, she, in a crisis one night, I called her 2 a.m. my time and said, whatever it is you do with people that you help them be more sane, do it to me now. Like I just lost it. It was a horrible night. And she said to me, that's usually when people call, when they're like, but there's no other way but to just face reality. That's usually when they call to do the work. So the work for me is just an incredible system to get back to God's world. As it turns out, that God is actually a lot kinder than I make it out to be, because reality, God is reality, right? Reality rules. I'm not saying God is limited to reality, but God is manifesting reality. And so if I'm looking at a moment and all I can see is the harshness and the cruelness, those are my glasses. And as painful as it might be sometimes, like real, like inner work push-ups, to be able to see God's reality, which means to be able to see the goodness in this moment. And it's what I love about it. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna pump myself up, affirmations. Like I love that high power motivation stuff too. That's cool. I have my Tony Robbins in my life also. But this is a different type. This is really just getting still enough to experience how other than what I'm thinking and believing, I'm okay. Yeah, just other than I'm thinking and believing, it's a good moment, because even this moment, I can make this moment so scary. Oh my gosh, this is Zoom. We're going to be recorded. Do I look okay? Is this what are people going to think? Are they going to buy my book? Is anyone going to even like my book? It could be a whole scary moment. Or it's like two women talking, period. Well, that's fine because I love you and you love me and we're talking. And you know what I mean? And it's just such a simple thing to get. And even just like, my students, I teach in the mornings. And they could ask me a question that's like so hard, so it totally derails me. And it's like, either I could get all derailed or just like, I love this moment. Meaning other than I'm thinking and believing, here's a beautiful person asking me a beautiful question. Who cares? I don't know the answer. Like, I'll deal with that in 2 seconds,
Right.
And so that's what the work's about.
That's
So
a reframe.
yeah. So I've been coaching women in the work for, I guess about 1.5 years. And thank God I have these fantastic, one girl, she started when she was in Tzfat as a student here. We've continued as she's gone back to America. And I love watching people's journeys. And I love that it makes me do the work. And what I love about coaching in the work is that there's no high and mighty. I'm not anybody's therapist. They tell me their trigger and I do the same work on the same trigger in me. Meaning if someone's trigger is, they did it to me again. So I say, hold on a second, before we do your work, I have to find where I believe that thought also. So as you have your transformation, you can help me. So really, I should pay them because they're of finding in themselves, oh, really? I did it to myself again, right? Oh, shoot. Oh, that was me. Or, oh, they didn't do it to me again. Oh, wow. You know, as they have their aha moment, I get to have it also. So that's also what I love about the work.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Right.
You know, it reminds me of the Ho'oponopono prayer. Do you know that? Do you know of it?
Yes, when I was doing Wim Hof with my husband this summer, okay, we did Wim Hof in Toronto, which is fantastic for anxiety, right? You go into a freezing cold ice bath. I couldn't even breathe. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna die in this bucket now. That's what's happening. I'm dying in an ice bucket that I paid good money to sit in. Like, I was like, this is horrible. Like, what am I doing? And I like had to break through my like, you know, to like sit in the ice bath bucket. And that's what came to me, was to my body. Thank you. I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. How does it go?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
That's all my body wanted from me was Ho'oponopono.
I love it. Did it work? Did it help?
Oh my God. It was like the most, yeah, it was like intimacy with God. It was great.
and you know, I love it. I love it. It is quite miraculous. That's it. It's like those 4 words and or whatever they are. It's just like the 4 little sentences. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And that's it. And those 4 words is exactly what you said. If you're experiencing, then it's somewhere in me too, because we're all one. And so if it's yours, it's mine. So let me take responsibility for that part in me, so that I can totally be connected to you and in this moment. So I love that you do that. And Katie, and Byron Katie's the work, you know.
I love that you connected those. That's cool.
Pardon me?
I love that you connected those. Thank you.
Well, for sure, because that is, yeah, that's what I think, that's what it's all about. I mean, the whole story of Dr. Hugh Len in Hawaii, who, you know, who never went to, he was a psychologist, right, in this hospital for criminally insane people, and it was really bad in every way, and people there were, you know, were quite dangerous, and the staff were walking around with their backs against the wall in case, you never, and plants were dying and everything, and the staff really disliked this man who was like the head of the whole thing, because he never went and sat in front of a patient. What he did was he'd open their files, and he read what was going on for them, and he would do this prayer.
Oh, wow.
And in 4 years, they had to close down that facility because everybody had gone home. Well, so you can read all about that and whatever. And so people say, talk about, really? Oh yeah, sure. No, the miracles that happen, and I've seen it again and again and again in my own life, by just doing that and setting that intention. And the whole premise of it, if it's happening to them, it's happening to me, it's in me too.
Wow.
Even if there's a new story that it's a million miles away, it had nothing to do with you, you heard it, it came into your consciousness, it's yours. You're here to just bless, release. And
wow.
Yeah, so it's very, very powerful. So I just love that that's what you do with these kids at school. And with the work is like, yeah, you just see it. But I love what you also said about okay, so that there was 2 different things, but you know, there's this kid and there's asking questions like, I don't know the answer to this, but I'll figure it out in a few minutes. You're just so there and present of this adorable child that's there asking you a question. I'm so blessed to have this child in front of me asking me this question. Okay, we'll get to that. But just to acknowledge the moment. Wow.
I just feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you about Yosef, who I feel like you probably do know about, because he is the source of rewriting your life. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, we're so close to his parsha. Do you mind me sharing about it a bit?
No.
Okay, just as you're saying,
I don't mind. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Because this is so, you know, what you do is help people rewrite your life. And Yosef in the Torah, in 2 weeks, we're going to be reading, starting next week, we're going to be reading about him in the Torah. And his life was miserable, right? His mother died when he's 7 years old. All of his brothers hate him. He's finally doing well in life. He gets thrown into a pit. His brothers sell him. He's in Egypt. He's finally becoming great and powerful in Egypt. You know, he decides to be ethical and not sleep with his master's wife. He gets thrown into another pit, right? Thrown in jail for 12 years. Like, his life is, you know, if someone's reading his psychological profile, he should be like just completely depressed. Like, he should just be done. Like, it was a whatever. And even when he was in prison, someone's new patients came, like new prisoners came. It's in that society, if you did something ethical, you got thrown into prison, right? So there were some nice people in prison. And he said to them, "Why are you sad?" And it's like, who asked that question in prison? Ask why you're happy. You know what I mean? Like, why are you sad? Of course you're sad, you're in prison. But to him, it was like, your reality doesn't need, like, the facts around you don't need to define your experience of it. Just that whole idea of you can rewrite that story. You are the narrator of your own life. You get to choose how that story is told. And when his brothers come to him to like beg for forgiveness, he says to them, "Don't be mad at yourselves. Don't feel guilty. Don't get depressed. Like, it's okay." Like, he's the one who's there to like encourage him, because he's already rewrote the story for himself. And he said to them, "Don't think you sent me here. God sent me here. And you know why? To save you, because there's a famine." Yeah, total turnaround. Told him source of Byron Katie and, narrative therapy, all at once there. Like, he just totally turns around, right? Instead of playing the victim, he refuses to. And I don't think it's because he didn't struggle. I think it's because you see in the verses, so much of the Torah is the way it's sung. It's very musical. And you see in his experience of how he had worked through it to a point where he said, if I hadn't been the ruler of Egypt now, because of everything I went through, there would have been this famine, we all would have died, And so he's saying, this didn't happen to me. This happened for me. So I can actually help the very family that harmed me. And so when we come to these portions, I always think about rewrite your life, because that's what I do with my students. I do a journal exercise for that parsha, because it's so that. So I just want to.
No, but that is so beautiful, because that's exactly what you did. You have rewritten your life again and again and again. And yeah, it's who you are. It's how you came in. It's your mission in life. You're doing it. You're passing it on. And I love that we have today, when you think about it, we have, Yosef, we have so many, people that have done these before us. We are not alone. There are so many magnificent people who have walked the planet and are walking the planet still, who are among us and who were among us, who have set the bar high for us to follow. And so we're not alone. And I think that what you've done is extraordinary, and what you're doing is extraordinary. What would you say? Yeah, you're so welcome. What would you say it would be, if you can sum it up even this way, what would you consider maybe the biggest learning or the biggest thing that you have ever learned?
I think the idea of trust, really trusting that it's always for me, and that just really, there's faith in God, and then there's trust. Faith is theoretical. In theory, yeah, God and I are fine, why not? But trust is like when things get real, and whenever moments, daily moments. I'm not talking huge things. We're talking about your card doesn't work because you just bought too many shoes and you want to buy your purse too. We don't need to be talking about such crazy hard things. It's just to find that place of trust that's always there. And to know it's not so hidden. That trust that things are going to work out for me and I'm being taken care of and guided. I think that I read a book by the Lubavitcher Rebbe called In Good Hands about 2 years ago, and it just has really stayed with me. It's just really reinforcing the ideas of trust, and just how that carrying that with us is, I think, the most just valuable thing to carry along with myself, is just to have that trust.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's such an important thing to be able to surrender to that, or to know inside of that there's truth in that in that whatever that is, that you can trust. You can trust God. Like you said, things are happening for us, not to us. They're here for us, and no matter what it is, no matter what. Reminds me of wonderful saying that I heard many years ago, and I love it. You know how a heron can just stand on a rock for the longest time. It's almost as though, like erect, as though it's meditating. It can just stand still for the longest time. And then in a split second, it'll go and catch a fish. And if that totem heron could speak, it would say, patience is not empty waiting. It's inner certainty.
Wow.
And it's that trust. It's that, can just be totally at ease and peace and just meditating and going through life, knowing that, yeah, the food will be there. Oh, okay, thank you. And then it's like patience is not empty waiting. It's inner certainty.
That's very powerful.
Isn't it powerful? To me, that is about trust and faith and just knowing all is well in spite of all outer appearances.
I hate patience. Like, I'm the most impatient person. Like, even these manuscripts, I'm like, hey, so I wrote it today and I want it published tomorrow. Like, why? Why does that have to take time? Why does life have to be a process? Like, patience is not my strong suit at all. But the fact that you just put it with inner certainty, which I love. So thank you for connecting those two. The patience, which is so hard for me, and inner certainty, because I love the idea of inner certainty. Thank you. That's cool.
Well, you're very welcome. Maybe it'll help you cultivate patience, because nothing happens in our time anyway. It's always in divine timing. So yeah. Go jump in some puddles while you're waiting. And then you're no longer waiting, you're having fun in the puddles. Yeah, I know. Anyway, you have just lit up my life again. And for everybody who will be listening to this is going to be so inspired by you, Hanala. And so where can people find you and your book?
Awesome. So yes, I would love to stay connected with whoever would like to. My book is on Amazon. It's on Kindle and it's on print. So it's Jumping in Puddles, a transformational memoir. I think you have to put in both to get it, by Chana Margulies. And if you want to get weekly videos they're short, 5 minutes max, inspiration on the Torah portion, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or not, like these, I say them with non-Hebrew terms as much as I can so anyone can enjoy them, then you can be in touch with me through my website, chanamargulies.org. And yes, I chose org because I thought that would be hilarious to choose .org. Yeah, chanamargulies.org. You can email me from there, and I would love to add you to our email list for the Parsha videos.
Okay, so that's CHANA, Chana Margulies, MARGULIES. Did I, is that right?
That was impressive, yes.
All right, and it'll be on the Your Life Matters Soul Connection podcast page with the book and where you can find it. But if you're just listening to this podcast in your car, and then you can go on and get all this information afterwards. So this has been an absolute delight and just so inspired by your story. And your story has been inspiring many people for many years in my book, my course, Rewrite to Reignite Your Life, because we have pictures of you and much of what you have, how you've inspired people over these years. So thank you for being that source of inspiration for me.
Thank you. Thank you for being the first, influence in my life of Rewrite Your Life, that's even a concept, So thank you for all the ways I consciously know that's impacted me, and also ways I don't even know, but I'm sure just having always known you and known that that's what you do, and the way that's, left its mark on my soul. So thank you. Thank you for letting me share this. And come visit in Tzfat. I
will. Yes. I intend to, yes.
And happy Hanukkah.
Oh yeah, it's coming up soon. What's the dates?
Hanukkah's in it's in 10 days exactly.
Wow, it's early this year.
Yeah,
I think it's early.
Because it's
today. It's 11/11.
Stop it.
It
11,
is
11,
11:11 in my, look, grandmother is with us. And wow, Boopy Barbara, my sister, 11:11, of course, for many people across the world, 11:11 is a power number. And it was the number that my sister Barbara and Hanala's grandmother, her mom and Rachel's mom, had within her, for not even necessarily even knowing why, but she was so connected to 11:11. And so anytime, I just happened to look at the clock right now, and for me,
Used
it's
to call her and
11:11.
say, it's 11:11.
Ah, yes. Well, there she is in heaven. She's there with us. Anytime I'm with anybody, when it's 11:11 my time, her spirit is with us. And she was one of the most exquisite, beautiful people on the planet ever. My sister Barbara, your grandmother. So how about that? This whole thing has been blessed, of course.
Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay. Love to your beautiful husband, Ariel, Rabbi Ariel, and thank you again. Bye for now.
Everyone watching this. Mwah. Thank
Mwah.
you. Love you.